What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Justin, and I bought a kalimba, and I'm not 100% sure why. Let me just put that over there. Today, we're listening to the much-awaited, much-requested Tubular Bells Part 1 off of Mike Oldfield's album Tubular Bells, which was released in 1973. You guys have been requesting this song, this album, for quite a long time, and I have a little extra time, and I said, you know what? Let's listen to some Tubular Bells. I have no idea what to expect from this. I don't know what kind of music Mike Oldfield's making with Tubular Bells. To be honest, I'm thinking something with bells. I'm thinking something percussive. I did see that it was pretty much instrumental from what I could tell. And I also saw that Mike Oldfield had recorded all the instruments overall himself when he was 19 years old. That is awesome. So I'm really excited to hear what he gets into here. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. Let me know, by the way, do you like when I do longer songs like this? Because this video is probably going to be at least, I would imagine, like 35 to 40 minutes or something like that. Do you guys like when I go into longer songs? Do you see the time, the duration of the video, and you're like, ugh, this is going to be a long one, and you skip it, or you don't watch, or you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one, because it's a little longer? Let me know in the comments just what you prefer. I just want to know your thoughts. I've kept you waiting long enough on this one. You can join me on Twitter. You can join me in the comments down below, and I definitely hope that you do. If you'd like, you can make donations to the channel, but you don't have to. You can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the music. I'm excited to see where this takes us, because like I said, I really have no idea what kind of music it's going to be. This is Tubular Bells Part 1. At some point, we will definitely do Part 2, but for now, we're doing Part 1. This is Tubular Bells Part 1 by Mike Oldfield.
grand piano. Reed and pipe organ. Glockenspiel. Bass guitar. Double speed guitar. Two slightly distorted guitars.
battery's about to run out. I gotta change it really quick. I'm so glad that we made it to the end of the song. About halfway through, I was like, oh no, it's gonna run out during the song. It made it till the last minute. This was so interesting. Okay, first of all, what do you guys think of the song? Like, forget me. What do you guys think of Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield? Okay, let me know your comments in the comments down below, because I want to know your thoughts first. I know he was 19 years old, it said, when he recorded this, and he recorded everything in here. Pretty much everything in here from what I could see. And it looks like there is a few other people involved in small things in certain parts, but it looks like 99% of this song is him. You know what I feel like this is? I feel like this is 19 years of musical buildup in Mike Oldfield's life, and this is him finally getting to play the music that he's heard in his head for so long. He's finally been able to put down and record the music that he's wanted to record for so long. And you musicians out there, you guys know this, okay? Think back to the first time that you actually recorded music. Not even the first time you played music. The first time you recorded music. Think about that feeling you had, because I remember the first time I recorded music. By the way, I spent all night recording it, and I hated music afterwards. But it was fun. It was fun recording music for the first time. And I think that this is the debut album from him. I think it is. I'm not 100. Yeah, it's the debut album from him. So I feel like this is that first time of like really getting to record music and really feel that experience. Just to finally put your ideas to pen and paper, your ideas to musical notes, and to unleash them into the world and show them to people. I think that that is such a unique experience. And I know obviously bands have debut albums, but for him to have taken all of this on a personal level, for him to have taken on all of the music himself, I think speaks in a whole different light. What I also thought was really curious about this was the lack of percussion and the lack of obvious drumming in here. At first I was kind of shocked, and I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the lack of drums in here, or the lack of, like I said, obvious percussion? Now, I do admit that in first listening to it, there were some moments in there I'm like, oh man, a drum would really like enhance this. Or you know, percussion would really bring this up. But I found that Mike was really smart in what he did, because even though this track, as far as I could tell, didn't really include drums or anything like that, some of the instruments themselves that he was using were kind of able to emulate percussive sounds, at least, to the effect that you didn't necessarily need drums, because the instruments that he was using himself and the sounds that he was bringing in were kind of doing that job for it. So for example, the thumping that was going on in some parts with the bass, it sounded like a little bass drum in the back. And it wasn't so much at the forefront that you would hear like, oh, this kind of sounds like a drum or a beat that he's creating with his with the bass. But it was more like in the background, and you wouldn't necessarily pick up on it right away. But your mind, because of the way the mind works, would naturally hear that beat and kind of instinctively kind of go along with it. And I think that Mike was really smart when he did that, creating the rhythm section specifically in this song. There's a lot going on. I mean, this song is incredibly dense. And I don't know if it's production, I don't know if it's whatever, but this song is incredibly dense. It's incredibly compact with all the instruments that he brings in. And he brings in a lot of instruments, as we heard on the end, as he rattled them off, which I thought was a super, super neat idea. But I do think that the density and the compactness of the song is actually, it kind of lends itself to what he was creating here. It feels like a collage of instruments and musical ideas from Mike that he's finally able to put to form. And so this very close feeling that we have with the music actually works well to the effect that I think that he's going for. But I don't want it to sound like there's no moments of space and no moments of openness, because there are a lot of moments of openness. I think my favorite section of this song is specifically that ending climax and that ending build-up as he's rattling off the different instruments and they would come in and play. I thought that was really cool just because, one, it was unexpected. You know, there were a few humming sounds in there and a few little things like that, but overall this was a vocalless song, i.e. instrumental song. So one, it was really cool and kind of shocking at first to hear a voice. I was like, oh, who's that? It almost felt like Mike was showing respect to all the instruments in their individual parts that they played. Because through the density of it, sometimes maybe things got a little lost, maybe some things were just like maybe in the background a little more than in the forefront, and he wanted to pay special attention to each individual instrument. So that final call, that final bow that each instrument took at the end was really cool. It allowed them some time to shine in the forefront, and then maybe you heard like exactly what things were doing. So as he rattled off the glockenspiel, the acoustic guitar, the double speed guitar, like you could actually hear what each one was contributing in the end, so that if you listen back to the song as a whole again, you could hear what they're contributing throughout the whole thing. It was a nice moment to actually give some due respect to the instrument itself and not just to the player. But speaking of the player, I don't know a lot about Mike Oldfield. Like I said, I read like a small paragraph right at the top that says he was 19 years old when he recorded this and that it's mostly instrumental. It's pretty much all I know. So I don't know exactly where his training came from regarding the instruments or his talents or anything like that. But I mean, the playing is undeniable. I do think that the way that he plays his instruments shows proficiency. It doesn't always need to come across in dancing time signatures and soaring solos and this whole kind of thing. First of all, the fact that he did all of this alone is one big factor. Two, it all comes together pretty well for the most part. And there's a few moments in here where he does show off and he goes off just a little bit, but it all plays relatively straightforward. And he gives you a lot of moments, a lot of diversity in his playing. He gives you a lot of very, very unique sections that like 1 minute you're hearing like something, 1 minute you're hearing this like soothing, almost winter landscape kind of tone, and then the next it shifts into this a little bit darker guitar riff that sounds a little bit more rock, and you're like, wait, where did we go? Where did we come from and where are we going? And in the middle of the songs, I was grabbing the other hat because I was going to change hats every time that he was switching like the sounds and the tone of the song, but I didn't feel like removing my headphones. I just wanted to listen to the song and, you know, I don't want to be too distracting. I really like the opening with this beautiful piano. It's so relaxing. You have a guitar that comes in every once in a while that kind of jump-started my heart a little bit. When I first heard it, I was like, what's that? I was imagining like snow falling and like you can see the snowflakes themselves and see the individuality of each one of them. And it was just this very beautiful landscape that he sets up here. And I can already tell you that I'm not going to know every single instrument that he played, because even though I have the list here, I gotta admit, I'm not 100% sure which ones sound like what and how it sounds here when he recorded it. Some of them I'm not sure. I know bass guitar. The Lori organ, I'm not sure about that. Tubular bells, I'm actually not sure what tubular bells sound like on their own. I guess I could look it up real quick. They're literally
You'll also notice about
big
the way
tubes
I'm striking the
that are
tubular
bells.
bell.
So I like the inclusion of the tubular bells in the song. I mean, for a song called Tubular Bells, you would think like, you know, you gotta put in the instrument that you name it after. I think the way that it was used during the song was really nice because they weren't overused, you know? I think that bells, and I think overall the sound of bells are very, very nice. It's like a nice mix between the melodic and the percussive. I don't think it's a sound that you necessarily want to listen to like all the time. At least I don't, because I'm going to think it's the doorbell. But I do think that along with all the other instruments, it's very smartly used. And one thing that I think is really cool, I'm just looking at another website here. I think this picture of Mike Oldfield surrounded by the guitar, all these wires, and he's holding his bass, it kind of shows you the mindset that he's in and the environment that he put himself in when he was recording this. Because imagine you're a musician, right? I mean, a lot of you probably are. Imagine you're a musician and someone, like I said before, gives you the opportunity to record. Here's your time. Here's everything you've got. Everything is all set up for you. Press the record button and you're good to go. And let's just say even though you only play guitar, let's say you have the availability to have a piano here, a bass here, tubular bells, and all these other instruments. Even if you're not a master at those other instruments, I think that, for lack of a better word, like, when you want to create something, when you want to create music, you'll at least start to mess around with them. Then you're actually going to make music that touches you. I think a decent amount of musicians, when they first start making music, they make music for themselves. You don't make music necessarily for other people, at least initially. You make the music that you want to make because that's what touches you. And that's what you feel inside of you, just the output of it. So when I'm looking at this picture of Mike Oldfield surrounded by wires at his feet and the guitar in his hand and everything, that's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the excitement of finally being able to record your music and really put together the ideas that you've had in your mind for so long. But this opening, I feel, is so effective. I think that this is such a calm and beautiful opening. Like I said, very wintry. It just feels This feels very magical. I like this a lot. But the song is not content. Mike is not content to stay in one place too long. He's ready to move on. He's established what he can do. He's ready to move on. And this song moves from place to place. As it moved into this section, I thought it was a very interesting and dark turn in the music. And we're only about 7 minutes, 24 seconds in. And I gotta admit, I'm looking at the instruments that he's playing, and I'm not 100% sure what this is. It sounds like an organ, but like distorted and super deep, but I'm not sure what it was. I'm really not. But then from there, like, we move back into this. And this guitar and the bells here, or the keys here, they have this air of mystery surrounding them that I think is both peaceful and unnerving at the same time, which is really cool. It's not alien enough to be like so far removed from humans, but it's not human enough to make you think like it's one of us. It's in the uncanny valley. It's like right in that in between. This is so interesting. I'm not even sure what instrument this is. But what I think is cool is that those first few bars of it, the first few notes, sound like a Spanish influenced kind of guitar, or at least a Spanish influenced theme. But it's in that last part where it kind of warps around and the pitch is bending. I think that's a really cool sound. It's interesting how this song moves. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but I'm gonna talk my way through it. And then we get this almost blues-inspired section here. Moving into a more classical section. Like, do you guys know what I mean? I think you know what I mean by now. Like, this song really moves from movement to movement. As a matter of fact, if you were to see the word movement in the dictionary, I think that you would see tubular bells in it, because it is just non-stop. It's very restless in the way that it moves from section to section. Now, I do think that most of the transitions work. Some of them are a little more jarring, but I also think that it kind of works for the song. I think that the jarring transitions kind of throw you off a little bit, but I feel that they actually feel pretty good when you listen. You think something's gonna happen, but it doesn't. That part was building you up for something, and it never came. It did, just not in the way that you expected. Usually when songs are building up and ramping up, you're expecting an explosion of music, an explosion of sound, a breakdown, a breakup, whatever. But Mike doesn't give it to you. Mike is very unpredictable. And I think that that's one word that I could use to describe this song, at least as a first-time listener. Of course, on subsequent listens, you're going to understand the music, you're going to know what to expect. But as a first-time listener who purposely didn't look at what type of music Mike was creating, just listening to the suggestions of you guys, I didn't know what to expect. But I was very surprised. I was pleasantly surprised to find that this was a progressive rock instrumental song. Absolutely. It's an epic of a progressive rock song, but borrowing influences from so many different directions. From, what I would expect of a prog rock song, but also from classical, from a little bit of blues, the Spanish-inspired guitar. I mean, it's very interesting. Ambient and even a little bit of drone. This part feels good. I don't know about you, but this part feels good. I like it. I like the little bit of, I want to say it's feedback, like in the back of it. Also kind of creating a melody, or maybe it's just another like instrument. It adds a little bit of distortion to it. It adds something concrete into the back of this. And it's from this section, of course, that we're reintroduced into all of the instruments that make up tubular bells, which, as I mentioned at the outset of me talking about this, I think that is a very cool way to bring it all back. It's a unique way to me to do the climax of the song. Almost, like I said, it's like a final bow of all the players, all the actors on the stage. Come back out, come on out and take your final bow. And like when you go to certain shows like plays or musicals or even like some jazz concerts and things like that, like at the end of the show when they're kind of wrapping up and doing that last big song that you guys all stand up for and you're having a great time. I feel like at that point they're announcing all of their players and all of the band members. They're like, hey, we got Ron Carter on the bass, and then he does a little bass solo. And like, we got Herbie Hancock on the piano. He does a piano solo. It's kind of like that. It's like they're layering gradually, soloing, reintroducing us to all the people that you just heard, which is actually one person, Mike Oldfield. I feel like instrumentally, which the whole song is instrumental, I feel like at least on first listen, this is kind of like a slightly more cohesive Gentle Giant. Like it has the uniqueness and it has the style of Gentle Giant, but it's a little more cohesive. I'm just going to read a little bit of an interview with Mike Oldfield. This is from Sounds on Sound. And he says, "We recorded at Abbey Road at around the time the Beatles were still working there. Blah, blah, blah. It was chock full of instruments. Everything was there, from orchestral percussion to beautiful pianos, harpsichords, a mellotron, and even a set of tubular bells. If a session started at noon, I'd go in there at 8 o'clock in the morning and spend 4 hours experimenting with all those instruments. That's how I learned to play so many different things." Isn't that the coolest thing, right? Even if you don't necessarily know how to play an instrument, you just sit there and you just start playing with it. And eventually the notes begin to form, the chords begin to form, music begins to form, and before you know it, you've made a whole album by yourself. I've always had a natural aptitude for picking up an instrument or hearing an unfamiliar tune and being able to play it almost straight away. I can play anything that's stringed with frets, as well as anything I can hit. I can't, however, play wind instruments like flute or saxophone. So, see, like, that kind of thing is cool. Understanding what you're proficient at, understanding what you're really good at, but then also understanding your weaknesses, your limitations. Now, he didn't let these limitations stop him in this at all. He allowed those limitations to perhaps give him something to work forward to work towards, and then at some point to break those limits. And I can kind of relate in a small sense because I just got this yesterday, actually. It just came in, which I guess will kind of date the video if you follow me on Twitter. But like, just messing around with it, like, I figured out the song "Live Young Rose." I can't play guitar. I can kind of play a little bass. I need to reintroduce myself to it. But percussion, give me something I can beat, and I can figure it out. So I think that that's really cool, the way that his mind works, along with the music and along with knowing what he can play and what he can't play. It also says here that in total, 274 overdubs were made, and an estimated 2,000 punch-ins added later. So that's what I kind of mean, that this song sounds very dense. But I don't think that that's a negative. I think that that's actually really cool because there's a lot in there to really bite into and to really chew on. It almost feels like a psychedelic song, but not psychedelic in the way that you would maybe typically think of like the late 60s and that kind of sound with like the fuzzy guitars. This sounds more psychedelic on a more cerebral level, I feel, with just the intensity of some of these moments, some of the space and the harmonies that are brought in. I think that this is a really cool song to listen to. That's kind of what I come around and come to at the finish. So at the end of the day, after all is said and done, because I think I've kind of like covered everything I want to cover about it, at least in here. And even though I didn't go into like every single section of the song, I actually didn't really feel like it was necessary to go into every single section of the song because they kind of speak for themselves. I feel like this is a book with many other books inside of it. Or I feel like this is a book that holds a lot of different character perspectives. Because this song, 26 minutes, it's a whole book. But there's sections in here that feel like individual chapters of an individual member, of an individual story, and a certain instrument specifically spotlighting, which, like I said, felt like a nice roundup of all those characters at the end of the song. I do think that the ending of the song is my favorite part, and even though I really enjoyed my first listen, because first listens are pretty much always enjoyable for me, I don't know if I could say if I would necessarily return to this song for repeated listens. I think that this is a song that you listen to once in a while because it feels, at least on first listen, very deep and very ingrained in like your mind. Like this holds you and doesn't let go. And while I can't say that I would listen to this all the time, I do think that for a flavor of the month, or to come back to it every few weeks or so, you would always be rewarded with listening to it. So I definitely have to listen to it again, but as of right now, I like it. I didn't love it, but I would like to listen to it again, which is all I want. I just want to listen to music. Guys, thank you so much for waiting. Thank you so much for the suggestion, because I do appreciate the suggestions. I love opening and expanding my musical taste, and I love to discover things, especially from bands or artists that I've heard of, but I've never heard. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so here for you guys. At some point, I will do Tubular Bells Part 2. I'll try and make it relatively soon, so it's not like a long wait between the two. But in the meantime, you guys are more than welcome to join me on Twitter. You can join me in the comments down below, and I hope that you do definitely join me in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the song. Let me know what you think of the lack of obvious percussion. Let me know what you think of each section. Which moment in the song is your favorite? Of course, you can donate to the channel if you like, but you do not have to. You can always just sit back and just relax. Enjoy the channel. If it's your first time here, I hope that you stay. If it's your last time here, then I hope you come back. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.